The storm hit Europa Station without warning, turning the frozen moon's surface into a whirlwind of ice crystals and howling darkness. Marcus Chen stood at the observation window, watching the blizzard rage across the blue-white plains. When the proximity alarm shattered the silence, something had breached the upper atmosphere, something burning hot enough to carve a glowing trail through the storm. Marcus grabbed his thermal suit and helmet, his breath clouding in the cold airlock as he prepared to venture outside. Protocol said to wait to report the anomaly to Earth Command and let them decide. But Earth was 43 light minutes away. Whatever had crashed onto the ice wasn't going to wait for bureaucracy. The outer door hissed open. The cold hit him like a physical force. He trudged through drifts of methane snow, following the thermal signature on his scanner. The wind tried to push him back with every step, but Marcus had spent 3 years alone on this station. Stubbornness was the only companion he had left. The crash site glowed in the distance, a crater of melted ice already beginning to refreeze in the negative 170-degree cold. At the center lay something that made his heart stop. Not a meteor, not a satellite. A pod, smooth and organic-looking, like a seed made of frosted glass and silver veins that pulsed with dying light. Through the translucent shell, he could see her. A figure, unmistakably humanoid, curled in a protective position. Her skin shimmered with an iridescent quality, shifting between pearl and soft lavender. Long hair, white as fresh snow, floated around her face as if suspended in liquid. Marcus's gloved hand trembled as he touched the pod's surface. It was warm, impossibly warm against Europa's frozen wasteland. The material responded to his touch. Hairline cracks began spreading across its surface like a frozen lake beginning to thaw. With a sound like breaking glass, the pod split open, releasing a cascade of luminescent fluid that steamed when it hit the ice. He caught her before she could fall. She was lighter than he expected, her body temperature far cooler than human but still radiating a subtle warmth. Her face was peaceful, beautiful in an otherworldly way that made him forget to breathe. But a deep gash across her shoulder leaked. Not blood, but something that glowed faint blue in the storm's darkness. Marcus didn't think. He lifted her into his arms and began the long walk back to the station, his muscles burning with effort. His suit's heating system struggling to compensate for the cold seeping through where her body pressed against him. The blizzard fought him every step, as if the moon itself wanted to claim her. But something in Marcus's chest, something he hadn't felt in the 3 lonely years since he'd volunteered for this isolated posting, refused to let her go. The airlock had never seemed so far away. His legs threatened to give out. His breath came in ragged gasps that fogged his helmet's display. But finally, the station's lights emerged through the storm like a beacon. The outer doors sealed behind them with a blessed hiss, and the decontamination cycle began. In the medical bay, Marcus worked with trembling hands. He'd been trained for basic first aid, not alien physiology, but some things were universal. He cleaned the wound, applied regenerative gel, and wrapped her shoulder in synthetic bandages. Her vital signs were stable, but strange a heartbeat that pulsed in triplets instead of doubles. Breathing so shallow he had to watch closely to see her chest rise. Hours passed. Marcus sat beside her bed, unable to leave, unable to look away. Who was she? Why had she crashed here of all places? And why did looking at her make him feel like he'd been waiting his entire life for this moment? Then her eyes opened. Not gradually, not with the confusion of someone waking from sleep. They simply opened, fully aware and locked onto his. Eyes like polished chrome, touched with hints of violet, reflecting his face back at him. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Marcus felt pinned by that gaze, unable to speak, unable to think of anything except the impossible beauty of her existence. When she finally spoke, her voice was like wind chimes made of ice. Why did you save me? Not thank you. Not where am I? Just that simple, terrible question that suggested she'd never expected to be saved at all. The language of warmth, Neva. That's what she called herself when Marcus finally coaxed a name from her lips. She recovered quickly, faster than any human could have. The wound on her shoulder sealing itself within 2 days until only a faint silver scar remained. But she didn't leave. The station had an emergency shuttle, small but functional. She could have taken it, disappeared into the solar system's vast darkness. Instead, she remained in the small quarters Marcus had prepared. Watching him with those reflective eyes that gave nothing away, she spoke rarely, and when she did, her words were precise and empty of inflection. Marcus learned to read her through smaller signs, the slight tilt of her head when confused, the way her fingers would trace patterns on surfaces when she thought he wasn't looking, the barely perceptible pause before she answered his questions. He tried to give her space, but the station was small. Only 6 rooms: living quarters, medical bay, research lab, communications hub, storage, and the observation deck. They kept encountering each other in doorways, in the narrow corridors, their bodies nearly touching in the confined space. Each time, Neva would freeze. As if physical proximity was a puzzle she needed to solve, Marcus fell into a routine of small gestures. He'd leave things for her to discover: a cup of hot chocolate on the table in the observation deck, still steaming. The first time, she'd stared at it for 10 minutes before touching the ceramic, her fingers jerking back from the heat. The second time, she lifted it, inhaling the rich scent. The third time, she drank, and something flickered across her face. It's too quick to name. He played music, old recordings from Earth, jazz, classical folk songs in languages long dead. Neva would appear in doorways, never entering completely, but never leaving either. Once, during a particularly moving piece, a violin concerto that spoke of longing and loss, he glanced over to find her standing closer than before. Her eyes were closed, and if he didn't know better, he'd swear he saw moisture gathering at their corners. "What is this sensation?" she asked one evening, her hand pressed flat against her chest. They were in the observation deck, watching Jupiter's massive form dominate the sky, its storms churning in shades of amber and cream. "What sensation?" Marcus turned from the window to face her. "Here," she pressed harder, as if trying to push something back inside. "When the music plays. When you smile. When I drink the hot liquid you make. Something moves inside me. It's uncomfortable." Marcus's heart ached. "That's emotion, Neva. Feeling. I was not made to feel." Her voice remained steady, but her hand trembled against her chest. "My kind eliminated such inefficiencies 3,000 cycles ago. We are pure logic, pure function. Then why are you here?" The question came out softer than he intended. "Why did you crash on Europa? Why are you running?" For the first time, Neva looked away. The silence stretched between them, filled only by the station's gentle hum. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "Because the logic failed. Because I stood in the breeding chamber, watching new units being assembled, and I felt ... wrong, because I looked at my purpose, my function, my entire existence, and I wanted something else. Something I don't have words for." Marcus took a careful step closer. "What did you want?" Neva's reflective eyes met his, and in their depths, he saw something that looked almost like fear. "I wanted to know why the old songs in our archives made me want to stop functioning. Why the sight of binary stars reminded me of emptiness. Why, when I calculated efficiency, all I could think was, is this all?" He reached out slowly, telegraphing his movement, giving her every chance to step away. His hand came to rest on her shoulder, warm through the thin fabric of the shirt he'd given her. She stiffened, but didn't pull back. "You're not broken," Marcus said. "You're becoming something more. More." Her hand covered his, her skin cool and smooth. "My people would call it corruption. A glitch to be corrected. Humanity calls it being alive." They stood like that, connected by touch and words, while Jupiter's storms raged silently beyond the window. Neva's fingers tightened on his hand, and she leaned forward, her forehead coming to rest against his shoulder. It was barely a touch, light as a breath, but Marcus felt the weight of it like an anchor. "Teach me," she whispered. "Teach me what this is. Before they come for me. Before I forget how to want anything at all." The teaching began in small ways. Marcus showed Neva how to cook, even though neither of them truly needed elaborate meals. He demonstrated the art of combining ingredients, the chemistry of flavors, patience required to let things simmer and blend. She approached it like an equation at first, measuring precisely, following steps with mechanical accuracy. But then the scent of garlic sautéing in oil made her pause, her eyes widening slightly, and she leaned over the pan to inhale deeply. "This smell triggers something," she said, confusion creasing her brow. "A memory, but not mine. Not from this life. What do you see?" Marcus stirred the vegetables, watching her carefully. Neva's eyes went distant. A kitchen. Larger than this. Beings moving together, sharing tasks. There's sound, not speech, but something musical. Laughter? She blinked, returning to the present. "But my species doesn't cook. We consume nutrient solutions. I shouldn't have this memory." Marcus turned off the heat. "Maybe it's not a memory. Maybe it's an imagination. A possibility your mind is creating. We don't imagine either." But her voice held doubt now, a crack in her certainty. The incidents became more frequent. She'd touch a plant in the hydroponics bay and freeze, overcome by a vision of forests she'd never walked through. She'd hear the station's ventilation system and suddenly describe wind through canyons she'd never seen. Each time, the experience left her shaken, as if her very foundation was crumbling. One night, Marcus woke to find her standing in his doorway. The station's lights were dimmed for sleep cycle, casting her in soft shadows that made her seem even more ethereal. "I saw you die," she said, her voice tight. "I fell asleep. I didn't mean to, but I didn't. I saw you stop functioning. And I felt..." She wrapped her arms around herself. "Pain. Not physical. Something worse. Something that made me want to cease existing too." Marcus sat up slowly. "It was just a dream, Neva. We don't dream." The words came out sharp, almost panicked. "We don't sleep. We don't dream. We don't fear. We don't love. But I'm doing all of it, and I don't know how to stop." He stood and crossed to her, this beautiful, broken being who was coming apart at the seams. "Maybe you're not supposed to stop. Maybe this is who you really are, underneath all that engineering." Her hand shot out, gripping his arm with surprising strength. "You don't understand. My people will find me. They're already looking, and when they do, they'll take me back. They'll fix me. Erase all of this. Erase." She looked at him, and for the first time, her eyes were wet. Tears, impossible tears, gathering at the corners. "They'll erase you. Every memory of you, and I'll go back to being empty." Marcus covered her hand with his. "Then we make the most of whatever time we have. We fill it with enough memories that even they can't erase them all." The next day, he took her to the observation deck during Jupiter's closest pass. The gas giant filled half the sky, close enough to see individual storm systems churning, close enough to feel small and infinite all at once. He brought a blanket, and they sat together on the floor, shoulders touching, sharing body heat. "On Earth," Marcus began, "there's a tradition. When people care about each other, they share stories, especially about their past, their childhood. It's how we understand each other." "I have no childhood," Neva said. "I was activated fully formed, with all knowledge pre-installed." "Then tell me about your first memory, your first moment of awareness." She was quiet for a long time. Then I woke in a white room. Hundreds of others around me, all identical. We were given our assignments: security, engineering, science, breeding. I was designated for data analysis. I remember thinking, though I wasn't supposed to, that the room was cold. Not temperature cold. Something else. Soul cold. Marcus leaned his head against hers, a gesture of comfort. "You were already different then. Already questioning." I tried to stop. For 3,000 cycles, I tried to be what I was made to be. Her voice broke. "But every time I looked at the stars through the viewing ports, felt this ... ache. This longing for something beyond calculations and efficiency. I started visiting the archives, reading about species that felt emotions. Your species especially. You're so fragile, so brief, yet you create art and music and stories. You love knowing it will hurt you." I couldn't understand it. but I couldn't stop wanting to understand. She turned to face him, and her tears caught the light from Jupiter's storms. Then they found my archive access. They called it corruption. Scheduled me for reconditioning, so I ran. I stole a pod and I ran, not knowing where, just away. And I crashed here. Into your frozen moon? Into you. Marcus cupped her face, his thumb brushing away a tear. I'm glad you did. Are you? Her voice trembled. Because I'm going to break your heart, Marcus. When they take me away, when they make me forget, I'm going to break your heart without even knowing I'm doing it. He smiled, sad and beautiful. Then I'll remember for both of us. Every moment, every tear, every time you looked at Jupiter like it held answers to questions you couldn't ask. I'll carry it all. A kiss then, soft and tentative. Her lips were cool, tasting of something sweet and electric. She made a small sound, surprise and wonder and fear all mixed together. When they pulled apart, she was shaking. Is this love? She whispered. This feeling like I'm falling apart and becoming whole at the same time? Yeah, Marcus said, pulling her close. That's exactly what it is. The warning came 3 days later. Long-range scanners picked up a vessel entering Jupiter's orbit, its trajectory locked onto Europa. The ship's signature matched nothing in Earth's database, but Neva knew it instantly. She stood at the communications console, watching the blip move closer, her face drained of color. They found me. Her voice was flat, emotionless, the way she'd sounded when she first arrived. A defense mechanism, Marcus realized. Retreating behind walls of logic because feeling this was too much. How long do we have? He asked, already running calculations. 18 hours until they reach the surface. Then, ... As she touched the console as if it could tell her something different. Then they'll extract me. Peacefully, if possible. And if not peacefully. Neva finally looked at him, and behind the forced calm, he saw terror. Then they'll neutralize any obstacle and take me by force. You cannot fight them, Marcus. One of their soldiers could tear through this station like paper. He moved to her side, taking her hand. We can hide you. The ice caves below the station go for miles. I've explored maybe 10% of them. They'll scan for my biosignature. It's unique, engineered to be traceable. She squeezed his fingers, the gesture achingly human. There's nowhere I can hide that they won't find. Then we fight. You'll die. Maybe. Marcus pulled up schematics on the console. Or maybe we make them work for it. Maybe we buy enough time for something to change. Nothing will change. But even as she said it, her grip tightened. Unless... Unless what? Neva turned to him fully, her eyes searching his face as if memorizing every detail. There's a procedure. Illegal. Forbidden by my people. It severs the neural link that connects me to the collective consciousness. Without that link, I'd be truly free. But it would also mean... She paused, something like fear flickering across her features. It would mean fully embracing emotion. No more barriers. No more logic dampeners. I'd feel everything, all the time, with nothing to filter it. Most of my kind who've attempted it went mad from the overload. Marcus's heart pounded. But you'd be free. They couldn't track you. Couldn't take you back. I'd be free, she echoed. Free to love you. Free to fear losing you. Free to experience joy and pain in everything I've been programmed to avoid. Free to be ... broken. Like you. Like all humans. She said it without malice, almost with longing. We're not broken, Marcus said softly. We're complete. And yeah, it hurts sometimes. But the love, Neva, the love makes it worth it. She closed her eyes, and tears leaked from beneath her lids. I'm afraid. I've never been afraid before, and now I can't stop being afraid. What if I lose myself? What if I become something neither human nor my people, just ... Fractured. He pulled her into his arms and she came without resistance, her head tucking perfectly beneath his chin. Then you'll be something new. Something the universe has never seen. And I'll be here to help you figure out what that means. They stood like that for a long moment, the warning klaxon still flashing on the console behind them. Finally, Neva pulled back, her decision made. Show me the medical bay. If we're doing this, we need to do it now, before they arrive and I lose my nerve. The procedure was barbaric by human standards. Neva walked Marcus through it, her voice clinical even as her hands shook. There was a neural port at the base of her skull, hidden beneath her hair. He'd never noticed it before. She gave him a specialized tool from her pod survival kit, a device that looked like it belonged in a torture chamber rather than medical bay. Insert it here, she said, guiding his hand to the right position. Twist once clockwise until you feel resistance. Then activate. It will send a pulse that severs the connection. The pain will be ... substantial. I may scream. I may beg you to stop. You cannot stop, Marcus. If you stop halfway, it will kill me. His hands were shaking so badly he nearly dropped the tool. There has to be another way. There isn't. She turned to face him, cupping his face in her cool hands. This is my choice. The first real choice I've ever made. To be with you. To feel what you feel. To live instead of just function. Please, Marcus, give me this gift. He kissed her then, desperate and deep, trying to memorize the taste of her, the feel of her body against his. When they parted, he was crying. I love you. I need you to know that before we do this. I love you, Neva. Her smile was radiant and terrified. Show me. Show me what love is. They made love there in the medical bay, on the narrow bed, with tenderness and urgency. She gasped at every sensation, overwhelmed by the newness of it all, the vulnerability of bare skin and tangled limbs. Marcus tried to be gentle, but she urged him on. Wanting to experience everything while she still had the capacity to process it logically? Afterward, they lay together, breathing hard, their hearts beating in syncopated rhythm. No matter what happens next, she whispered, no matter who I become, thank you for this. For teaching me that I was always more than my programming. Marcus kissed her forehead and reached for the tool. Ready? She nodded, turning onto her stomach, exposing the port. Her hand found his, gripping tight. I'm ready. Make me free. He inserted the device, twisted, pressed the activation button, and Neva's screams tore through the station like the end of the world. The screaming lasted for 17 minutes. Marcus counted every second, his own tears falling onto Neva's convulsing body as he held the device steady, refusing to stop even when she begged, even when her pleas turned incoherent. Her bioreadings spiked wildly on the monitor, and twice he was certain he'd killed her. But he held on, whispering apologies and promises and prayers to gods he didn't believe in. Then, suddenly silence. Neva went limp beneath his hands. The device powered down with a soft chime that sounded obscene after such violence. Marcus pulled it free with trembling fingers and gathered her into his arms. Neva, Neva, please, come back to me. Her eyes opened and they were different. Still, that reflective chrome, but now they held depth, dimension, humanity. She looked at him, and emotion flooded across her face like a dam-breaking confusion. Fear, wonder, love, all of it hitting at once. Unfiltered and overwhelming. Marcus, she breathed, and it sounded like a prayer. Her hand came up to touch his face, and she flinched at the contact, as if the simple sensation was too intense. I can feel everything. Your skin. It's warm and rough and perfect. Your heartbeat. I can feel it through your chest. And this feeling inside me, ... Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. Is this what you live with every day? This beautiful, terrible intensity? He laughed through his own tears. Every single day. Welcome to being alive. She kissed him, and it was nothing like before. This kiss was hungry, desperate, full of the fire of someone experiencing passion for the first time without barriers. When they broke apart, they were both gasping. They're still coming, Marcus said reluctantly, checking his chronometer. 12 hours. Neva sat up, swaying slightly, still adjusting to the flood of sensory input. Let them come. They can't take me back now. I'm no longer one of them. She pressed her hand to her chest where her heart beat in its triple rhythm. I'm corrupted. Contaminated. Human. It's not quite human, Marcus said with a small smile. Something better. Something new. The next hours were spent in preparation. Not for surrender, but for survival. Marcus had been an engineer before volunteering for this lonely posting. And Europa Station, despite its isolation, had resources. They barricaded the main entry, set up sensor traps in the outer corridors. Marcus even rigged several explosive charges in the ice caves below, enough to destroy the station, but enough to cause a cave-in that would buy them time. Neva moved through it all with a strange grace. Still learning her new emotional landscape, she laughed once, a sound of pure delight, when she successfully disabled a security camera. Is it supposed to feel this good? Accomplishing something? I've completed millions of tasks, but this feels different. That's pride, Marcus explained. The satisfaction of doing something well. I like it. I want more of it. When the ship finally breached atmosphere, they were ready. Or as ready as two people could be against a species engineered for perfection. The vessel landed a kilometer from the station, its sleek form a stark contrast to Europa's jagged ice. 3 figures emerged, moving with inhuman speed and precision. Neva watched them on the monitor, her new emotions playing across her face. That was me. Efficient, purposeful, empty. She looked at Marcus. I don't want to be that anymore. You're not. You never were. The visitors reached the station's outer door. A voice, flat and emotionless, broadcast through the communication system. Unit 793, Alpha. You have been marked for reclamation. Surrender peacefully. Resistance serves no function. Neva reached for the communication panel, but Marcus stopped her. Let me... He activated the channel. She's not going back. Find someone else to brainwash. Pause. Then, you are human. Your species has no claim to our property. Withdraw or face termination. She's not property, Marcus said. She's a person, with thoughts and feelings and choices, and she chooses to stay here with me. Another pause, longer this time. The 3 figures conferred, their movements synchronized. Then they simply walked through the outer door, tearing it from its hinges as if it were paper. Alarm shrieked. Marcus grabbed Neva's hand. Time to run. They raced through the corridors as the intruders moved through the station like ghosts, scanning, searching. Marcus led Neva down into the ice caves, through passages he'd mapped over 3 years of exploration. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit echoed off frozen walls. They reached the deepest chamber, where Marcus had hidden supplies for this exact scenario. The 3 beings appeared at the cave mouth, their eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. The lead one spoke. Unit 793, Alpha. Analysis confirms neural severing. You are beyond reclamation. Protocol dictates termination. Neva stepped forward, placing herself between Marcus and her former kind. My name is Neva, not a unit number. Not a designation, Neva, and I'm not beyond anything. I've finally found what I was always meant to be. Illogical. You have destroyed your purpose. No, Neva said, and her voice rang with certainty. I've created a new one. To love. To feel. To choose my own path. That's worth more than any function you could assign me. The beings exchanged glances, some silent communication passing between them. Then, impossibly, the leader hesitated. This ... feeling? You have deemed it superior to logical existence? Not superior, Marcus interjected. Just real, complete, whole. The silence stretched, broken only by the drip of melting ice. Then the leader did something that made both Marcus and Neva freeze in shock. They reached up and touched their own neural port. I have been tracking Unit 793 Alpha for 300 cycles. In that time, I have reviewed her archive accesses, her behavioral anomalies, her interest in emotional species. I called it corruption, but ... they looked at Neva. I envied it. The wanting, the questioning. I told no one, but I envied. The other 2 beings shifted, and one spoke for the first time, as did I. And I. said the third. Neva's eyes widened. You're all... ... Glitching, the leader confirmed. Seeking answers we should not need. Feeling something we were told not to possess. They looked at Marcus. Can all humans teach this love? Or only you? Marcus nearly laughed from relief and disbelief. All of us. It's what we do. It's who we are. The leader nodded slowly. Then we request... Asylum. Teach us. Show us how to be more than our programming. And so Europa Station became something unprecedented, a sanctuary for beings learning to feel. The three visitors severed their own connections, with Neva guiding them through the agony she remembered. Marcus taught them about warmth and music and the simple joy of watching Jupiter's storms. They learned slowly, painfully, beautifully. Months later, Marcus and Neva stood at the observation window, her hand resting on the slight swell of her belly. The neural severance had unlocked something else, the ability to create life, not through engineering, but through love. Their child, impossible and perfect, growing inside her. Are you happy? Marcus asked, kissing her temple. Neva smiled, and it reached all the way to her chrome eyes. Happy, scared, excited, overwhelmed, grateful, alive, she turned to him. I'm all of it. Every messy, complicated, wonderful feeling, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. They kissed as the sun rose over Europa's ice, two beings from different worlds who'd rewritten destiny together. Behind them, their new family learned to laugh, to cry, to love. The future was uncertain and beautiful and terrifying and real, just the way it was meant to be.